All right, everyone, we're going to get started. On behalf of Great Lakes, Simonton, and Plygem Windows, welcome to the webinar, 5 Marketing Mistakes Remodelers Are Making. Today, we're going to hear from Rich Harshaw, who is the CEO of Level 10 Contractor. He's an expert in contractor marketing and has a proven track record of generating leads to take companies to the next level. Rich is a published author and the host of a daily podcast. And for those of you invited to the Diamond Dealer meeting in February, you'll get to meet him in person in the Bahamas. Today, Rich is going to share 5 very common mistakes when it comes to your marketing and how to overcome them. Rich, take it away.
Okay, Morgan, thanks for having me on today. How's everybody doing today? Super excited to get into this topic with you. I think it's kind of a downer to talk about mistakes, but obviously, hopefully at least obviously, as we do that, we will start to discuss the solutions to those mistakes and help you to do a little bit better. Let me just introduce myself. As Morgan said, my name is Rich Harshaw. My company is Level 10 Contractor. You may have heard of me in the past affiliated with a company called Monopolize Your Marketplace. And in fact, that was the name of my company until this year. We just did a rebranding. We have the same people, we have the same folks, but we really wanted to double down and lean into the contractor space. We've been in this space for, since 2005, so almost 15 years now. And that's something that we pretty much do all of our business in the remodeling industry. In fact, just came out with a new book earlier this year called Unlocking Unlimited Lead Flow. I'll talk about that in just a minute. And just want to help you to understand some of the concepts and principles that go along with this. Again, specifically geared towards and leaning into the contractor space. Contractors can be any kind of business, whether it be window dealers, like I'm assuming the majority of the people on this webinar are, or remodeling contractors in terms of kitchens and baths, roofing, siding, even getting into home services are all kind of in our wheelhouse. So as we get started today, I want to just give you an idea of what this Level 10 thing is all about. And as we do this, I want to kind of just give you an overview of what we're going to cover today. The first one is mistake number 1, style over substance, which is going to be talking about your website. Number 2 is a Google-centric focus, which is something that sounds like it ought to be a good thing, but I'm going to show you how it potentially is causing you a lot of agony that you maybe didn't even know you had. The third thing we're going to talk about is selling to strangers instead of friends. That's going to be about branding. Number 4, a sales-heavy approach to marketing. That's very common in this industry. And number 5, staying in your comfort zone. And of course, the opposite of that is going to be getting out of your comfort zone. So like I said, my name is Rich Harshaw, and we've been doing this since 2005. Like I said, we've rebranded from Level 10 Contractor. I'm going to tell you why. We've done a lot of work over the years with smaller types of contractors, $1, $2, $3 million in sales, occasionally getting bigger. But in 2011, I started working with a company called Horizon Services. It's an air conditioning company out of Wilmington, Delaware, that also services the Philadelphia area. And this company was doing $44 million in sales. And I won't go through the details. It's in my book if you want to check that out. The process by which they brought me in to work with them was quite elaborate. It was quite expensive for them. They put me through, let's say, a sizable tryout. And they ended up hiring me to do all their marketing and advertising for them. Ended up getting them on radio and television, something we'll talk about later on in this webinar. Ended up helping them in the next 6 years from 2011 to 2017 go from 44 million in sales to about $150 million in sales, at which point they were bought out by a private equity firm for a nice middle 9-figure amount. And that was an interesting eye-opening experience. I'm telling you that because I learned that these kinds of companies, Horizon Services, very large, well-run companies, do things quite a bit different than the smaller contractors that I had been used to working with up to that point. Now, I don't want to give you the wrong impression. It wasn't that I had only exclusively worked with smaller contractors, but that was typically kind of what our wheelhouse was. Over the next few years, from 2011 until now, started working with other companies like Jericho Home Improvements, kitchen and bathroom remodeling company out of Kansas City, about a $13 million company. Service Champion Heating and Air Conditioning, about a $50 million company out of California. You Build It, a contractor that helps people build their own homes out of Oklahoma City. And 1-800-Hansons, many of you may be familiar with this company. They got to about $80 million in sales before also selling out to private equity. And here's what I found. Working with these companies, they do things extremely differently than the smaller companies that, again, I've been used to working. And here's what I found. If I started taking those mindsets and those principles that I found in these companies and applying it to some of the smaller companies, really phenomenal things started to happen. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Some of the things that I took out of these large companies that are now being applied into, yes, still large companies, but also a lot smaller companies, perhaps more like yours. All of this came together in a book called Unlocking Unlimited Lead Flow. Like I said, this launched, I think, in January 2019 this year. And if you're interested in that, you can go look on Amazon. That book is available. Here's our mission statement. We help remodeling and home services companies make the jump to $10 million plus by generating unlimited lead flow. And a lot of those things are what we're going to talk about here today in this webinar. So let's jump into mistake number one. Again, remember, there's 5 mistakes, so I'll kind of go through them. And I want to just help you understand how we're going to pace this webinar today. We're going to spend a little bit more time on mistake number 1 and mistake number 2, and then we'll go, relatively speaking, faster through mistakes numbers 3, 4, and 5. So as we get going through 1 and 2, and you look at your watch and you say, hey, I don't know if this guy's going to finish this webinar on time. It's okay. We will. It's just going to take a little longer to go through mistakes 1 and 2, and then we'll kind of cruise through 3, 4, and 5 a bit quicker. Okay. So here's what it is. It's style over substance. And here's what you think, typically speaking, that if you have a great looking website, that's the same thing as having a great website. And what I have found is that definitely that is not always the case. In fact, frequently it's not the case. Here's the truth. People want to know why they should choose you. They want to know why they should choose you. They don't want to participate in a beauty contest where they're trying to decide which of these nice looking websites is the best company. They want to know why they should choose you. So what you've got to do is communicate your unique advantages with power, precision, and passion. The key is something that we call identity. Now, you might look at this slide and you might look at that, communicate your unique advantages with power, precision, and passion, and you might think, well, we already do that. And I can almost assuredly tell you that either A, you flat out do not, and I'll show you examples, or B, maybe you kind of do, but there's a lot of room for upside in terms of, look what that says, power, precision, and passion. So that's what we're going to get into right now. Again, this is not, like look on your screen. It's not a beauty pageant where it just matters who looks nice. And even, the beauty pageants have actually come a long way, and they said, that's kind of dumb. Let's also include other factors. But if your website is based just on how it looks, it's going to be an issue. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Here's a company called Right Windows. It's a beautiful website. It's got this beautiful family. They're enjoying their children. There's windows that are having light come in the background. There's a fall 50/50 sale, whatever that means. You can read the reviews. And it's a really nice looking website. But the key question is, okay, it looks good. It passes kind of a sniff test of it's a nice looking website. But what does it say? What does it say? Here's another website called SRA Home Products. They do pergolas and sunrooms and screen rooms. Again, a very nice looking website. But does it pass the test of, hey, why would I want to do business with this company? What can I expect? Why are they different? How are they better? And we want to see if it answers those questions. The problem is, this isn't 2003. All of your real competitors already have great looking websites. Now, you could probably point to some of your competitors that don't have nice looking websites, and you could probably say, well, they don't. But trust me, the competitors that matter, they do. And like real life, looks are only a small part of the full equation. Most companies don't know what to say on their websites, so they end up filling it with platitudes. Now, this is where we're really going to kind of get to where the rubber hits the road. And I want you to think about your marketing, your website specifically, but also your other marketing as it relates to this word platitude. Here's what a platitude is. Words, phrases, that are drearily commonplace and predictable, that lack power to evoke interest through overuse and repetition, that are nevertheless stated as though they were original or significant. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of this here in just a second, but I want you to let this definition sink in. Platitudes. Is your marketing full of platitudes? Things like best service, highest quality, largest selection, free estimates. You know, we've been in business since 1431 BC. If it is, and trust me, I look at a lot of websites in doing what I do. We do website audits all the time. In fact, I'm going to offer you at the end of this webinar a chance to have us audit your website, and we're going to be looking for platitudes. We're going to be looking for identity and some of the other things that we're going to talk about on today's webinar. But here's the key. If it's full of platitudes, you're going to lose. And you say, well, what do you mean we're going to lose? We're doing well. We've got 2 million in sales. We got 6 million in sales. How much more could you be doing if you took the time to do what we're going to talk about here today? I mean, so think about back to the beauty contest. You know, and here's the kinds of answers that they always come up with. They're always platitudes, right? If I could teach also people to be grateful, we could have an amazing world where negativity could not grow and foster, and children would have a smile on their faces. This is the kind of thing that comes from the beauty pageant contestants, and you're like, wow, that's just really dumb. But let's see what kinds of things come from the beauty contest of, hey, we've got this great looking website. What I'm going to do is on this next slide, I'm going to show you, if you were to scroll on this website, I'm going to show you what would appear. Here's what it says. This is look, I'm going to go back. It's right under this. If you were to scroll, and I don't have this live on the internet, but it's on a slideshow. But if you were to scroll, here's what you would find. Whoops, wrong way. You would find this. Right window, quality replacement windows, entry doors, patio doors, gutters, and roofing. Now, let's just read this, not because we're super interested in it, but I want to give you a feel for this. Right windows makes it easy and affordable for you to upgrade your windows, doors, gutters, or roofing. In addition to installing home improvement products that make your home more attractive and energy efficient, we focus on quality, completing our work quickly, and staying within your budget. No matter what type of project you have in mind, whether it's replacing your home windows with new ones that will help reduce your energy costs, or transforming the exterior of your home with a new roof or gutters, our promise is simple: to provide you with better products professionally installed at the right price. And then it goes on to have more what I would consider platitudes. Now, you kind of look at this and you might think, well, yeah, that's just what you put on a website. Here's what I want you to compare this against. What if your salesperson walked into the house and said what I just read off of this slide? It would be a disaster. It's dumb. It doesn't make any sense. What we want to do is communicate with power, precision, and passion. And here's what this does not do. Okay? Its right window is locally owned. Since our founding in 2000, we have helped thousands of homeowners in the greater Boston area improve their homes with energy-efficient replacement windows, entry doors, and patio doors, gutters, and shingle roofing, all of which will add value to your house. This is saying essentially nothing. And I want you to evaluate it. Look at it. This is saying essentially nothing. This is like, what is this like? This is like going into a restaurant and them saying, we have food. It's here. It's delicious. It'll make you full. Okay, but why would I want to go to this particular company or that restaurant in the example? Now, here's the other site that I showed you briefly, the pergolas and sunrooms and screen rooms one. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read this text again. This one was a little easier to put on the screen. I'm going to look at this text right below the main header. Let's see what it says. Chimo sunrooms, pergolas, patio covers, screen rooms, basement finishing systems, and other products for homes in Sewell and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, throughout the Delaware Valley. Now, right away, we're going to get into mistake number 2 in a minute, which is called Google-centric focus. And we're going to look at that again. And quite frankly, we're probably going to, throw up. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's read what it says below that. SRA Home Products offers sunrooms, pergolas, basement finishing system, and numerous other products from industry leader Chimo to enhance the homes of residents in Sewell and New Jersey and throughout the surrounding area. We're a second-generation, family-owned and operated company trusted by local homeowners since 1988. And since our beginnings, we've maintained an unwavering dedication to providing. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine that beauty contest contestant I want you to imagine her standing up there and saying, so tell me, Miss Delaware or Miss Cherry Hill, New Jersey, why should people do business with you? We're a second-generation family-owned and operated company trusted by local homeowners since 1988, and since our beginnings, we've maintained an unwavering dedication to providing all of our customers with the best products available, the highest level of craftsmanship, and outstanding customer service. Here's what this is saying. Nothing. Let me be very clear again, one more time. It's saying nothing. It's platitudes. It's said as if it were, important and some kind of, earth-shattering information, but it's just not. Now, here's do you remember the Charlie Brown cartoons when you were a kid that came on TV as specials, Thanksgiving, we're kind of into that time of year, the Christmas special? You sound kind of like Charlie Brown's mother when you talk like that. Remember that? Wah, 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 wah. Remember that? That's what this sounds like. And I don't know this for a fact, but here's what I think. Charlie Brown's mother and the teachers, the adults on that cartoon, the reason that when the children heard them, it was wah, 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 it sort of symbolized that no matter what the adult was saying, the kid just kind of tuned it out and had no interest in it because whatever it was just not important. It was boring. And that's what's happening on these websites, okay? Now, let's shift gears and let's get into the solution. It's called identity. Here's what identity is. Words, phrases, and images that are articulated with power, precision, and passion that instantly and definitively communicate who you are, how you're different and better, and what customers can expect when doing business with you. Okay, now I want you to think back to the examples we looked at just a moment ago, and I want you to evaluate. Were those words, phrases, and images articulated with power, precision, and passion that instantly definitively communicate who those companies were, how they were different and better than their competitors, and what customers could expect? And you say, well, yeah, they say that we have an unwavering commitment to quality. What do you think that they would say? We suck, we're terrible, our customers hate us? They're not going to say that. Anybody can say anything, but here's what you're going to find as we go through this. Identity. Look at this. Articulated with power. Here's a good word for you. Precision. Here's another good word for you. Passion. Instantly, definitively communicate. Let me show you some examples of how this works, okay? First thing we want to do is think. What is it that you want people to know about you and specifically your company? Well, there's certain things that you do really, really well, right? That includes your products. That includes your company. Again, this is an important distinction. Not just only the products that you sell, which is going to be a Great Lakes window, Simonton window, it's going to be also your company and how you deal with people. It's going to be your core values, whether that be integrity or, respect for the customer, teamwork, things like that, advocacy for the customer. It's also going to be your bedside manner, how you deal with people, how you treat people. And I'll go through that in a little bit more detail later on in this webinar. But I want you to know it's not just only your window. It's the totality of the experience that they have with you, from the products to the workmanship, to the bedside manner, to the core values, to the everything else, okay? The key is to identify those things and then articulate them in a way that people just can't miss. If the prospect can't immediately tell, if they can't tell who you are, how you're different, why you're better, and what they can expect, then you're going to lose more often than you're going to win. You have to tell people what to look for and what to expect. You have to point at it and say, hey, look, here's what we do. Here's how we're different, okay? Let me show you an example. This is a company called Upscale Remodeling. And I want you to look at the top. This is what's called a slider. You're probably familiar with this. It shows up there, and then a few seconds later, another one comes on. A few seconds later, another one comes on. And here's what it says. We're hyper strict on installation standards. Every little detail down to the last nail is carefully considered. That's one of the sliders. Now, if you look down below, welcome to stress-free, quality first, not done until you say it's done remodeling. Successful remodeling doesn't happen by accident. It's deliberate, measured, and absolutely on purpose. We're sticklers for details. We obsess over perfection. So we're not the fastest and we're not the cheapest. According to our clients, we're simply the best. Now, here's a question for you. Look at the definition of identity. Words, phrases, and images, right, that definitively and instantly communicate who you are, how you're different and better, and what customers can expect when doing business with you. All of that communicated with power, precision, and passion. It's different, isn't it? Let's take a look at some more. So this is, again, the slider. Let's go to, well, let's take a look. I'm going to go back one. If you go to the reputation and you look at the client case studies, here's what you're going to find. We've profiled a few of our customers' projects, get a behind-the-scenes peek at how we work and what we do. And then we've got multiple case studies. You can look this website up if you want. It's called, what's it called? upscaleremodeling.com. The Gossets, the Hendricks, and if you click on those, you're going to see photos of the job during, before, during, after. You're going to see what they were trying to do, how this company helped them accomplish it. Here's another thing, the BBB. If you put on your website things like we're BBB accredited, you assume that other people know what that means. But here's what you've got to do. You've got to help people interpret the evidence, look at the data, and understand what it is that it means. So for instance, this is one of potentially many things. The BBB grades companies on 16 different factors from trust and honesty to responsiveness, privacy, and competency. The Better Business Bureau has given Upscale Remodeling an A+ rating for 5 years in a row. And then below, you can go and it says, click here to see the BBB's report on upscale remodeling. So we're telling people what to expect. We're telling them what to do. Now, here's what I do not want you to do. I do not want you to look at this webinar and hear what I'm saying and draw a conclusion that says, hey, this guy, Rich, says that the BBB is the most important thing. This is one element out of many that I'm showing you on this webinar to help you understand that we've got to use power, precision, and passion to instantly, definitively communicate who we are, how we're different, why we're better, and what people can expect when doing business with us. We can't just throw evidence out there without explaining it. Otherwise, it becomes a platitude. Here's a good example of an About Us page. If you go to the About Us page of this website, you'll see a photo of Steve, and you'll see this little story about his family that's been building in this area since the 1700s. He says, I was born and raised right here in Ithaca, New York. In fact, my mother's ancestors migrated here. You can read this in detail if you want to on their website. Of course, you can see it right now for just a minute. But here's the idea, and here's what I want you to do. And I actually would like you to go on this website and just kind of dig around a little bit and see what you find in terms of identity. Here's who we are. Here's how we're different. Now, I'm going to cover some of these points of identity in a little bit more detail later on in this webinar. But for now, here's what I want you to take out of this. You can't simply spew platitudes of we're different, we're better, we're awesome. We have unwavering commitment to quality, because it does not move the needle. It doesn't register in people's consciousness as something that they can latch onto. You have to be more detailed. You have to use the precision, the passion, the power, okay? Then we can take and put this into something like, for instance, a brochure. Stress-free, quality-first remodeling, Upscale Remodeling Corp. And you look on the back of this, upscale is your choice for craftsman quality remodeling. And then we talk about the things that we do. Here's what our customers have to say. Those are going to be based on identity points. We flip this brochure over. Here's what you see. It's not done until you say it's done, period. We're sticklers for details. We obsess over perfection. Now, let me ask you this. If you found this company online and you were thinking about remodeling your home, do you have a pretty good idea of who they are, how they're different, what you could expect when doing business with them? Well, I think you can, because we've used, again, power, precision, and passion. The biggest mistake that I see, and this is why it's mistake number one on this webinar, with our clients and with other companies that just let us do audits and we just talk to and do strategy sessions with that don't become our clients. It's the number one thing that I see that is problematic. There is not a defined identity that is easy to determine by looking at the marketing materials, specifically the website. And so you start to lose opportunities because people go right past you and they just keep looking for somebody else, okay? Here's what we want to do. We want to help you to create an identity. Again, the identity, I'll show you in more detail a little bit later in this webinar. It's based on all of the things that you do. It's a comprehensive case, like a court case. All the things that you do that have to do with not just your products, but also your workmanship, also your bedside manner, also your core values, also several other factors, which I'll show you in a little bit. And it comes into this thing called identity. And then we can take, and this becomes the foundation of everything you do in marketing, whether it's your website, your print ads, the mailers that you do, online advertising, TV and radio advertising, home shows. I know a lot of you do home shows, phone scripts, in-home sales, your bread and butter. We're going to talk a little bit more about bread and butter later. Your bread and butter are the things that you do consistently that generate leads for you on a consistent, reliable basis. Whatever it is that you're doing, your identity will make your stuff work better. Let me put it to you this way. If you've got a generic website that looks beautiful, but it's full of platitudes and it doesn't tell people your story, I mean, in its essence, here's what marketing is. It's storytelling. It's helping people understand the nuances of how you're different and why you're better. And if you don't do that, then you're going to have a lower amount of conversion and a lower amount of sales. By fixing that, here's what happens. All of these things that are on your screen right now, all of these little bubbles, website, print ads, TV, home shows, all this, all of it works better. All of it. It all works better. You get more bang for your buck. When you go to the home show, if you take this identity and you inject it into your home show materials, into your backstop, your big banner, 8x10 or whatever it is, the pop-up banners, your materials that you hand out, you will get more leads and you will convert more of them. If you do TV advertising and it's full of identity, people will start to, after a little bit of time, understand who you are, how you're different, and why you're better. This is the crux. It's the foundation. It's the most important thing. That's why it's mistake number one. And we're talking about it in the context of your website, but it does go to everything else that you do, okay? Now, if you want to learn more about identity, we do have, like Morgan said, a daily podcast that I host. You can look it up on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's on all of the platforms, but those are the two most popular. Just go and search on the platform, Level 10 Contractor Daily Podcast, and then just make a note. Look up episode 11 from September 19th, episode 24 from October 2nd, and there's a lot more information about this concept called identity that you can find there. Plus, just listen to the podcast every day and you'll get tons of information, okay? Now let's go to mistake number 2, Google-centric focus. Here's what you think. Ranking well on Google is all about keywords. And that's partially true, but like so many things, it only tells a little bit of the story and it neglects a huge part of the story that's really, really important. Here's the truth. There's 2 audiences for your website, Google and humans. Most web companies, now when I say most web companies, I'm talking about companies that help contractors build websites and do SEO services. Most of those companies cater first to Google and then maybe humans. And you know what? Realistically, they don't really cater to humans at all. And they let the humans just kind of flail around and splash water and not really, make a difference. Here's what you should do. Cater to humans first. Not 1A to Google. Cater to humans first. And then here's what you'll find. If you do it right, Google will naturally follow. And I'm going to explain. Okay? Now, remember this from earlier? This is the website that I showed you. Let me read this. Let me read this context to you so you can get a feel for this. Patio enclosures, sunroom additions, pergola structures, and more for homes throughout Sewell and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and all across the surrounding area. Again, I asked you this earlier. I'm going to ask it again. Imagine your salesperson walking in and saying that. Now, naturally, what you're seeing here is these are all keywords. These are keywords that Google is saying, oh, these guys have patio enclosures. Check. These guys have sunroom additions. Check. Pergola structures. And they service Sewell and Cherry Hill and New Jersey and surrounding areas. And if you read the text now. We offer home products to complete solutions to various home improvement needs. Oh my God. Think about that. Complete solutions to various home improvement needs. Homeowners, and here it is again, Sewell, Cherry Hill, other communities throughout what? Delaware Valley. Outdoor living products like pergolas, patio covers when you need UV protection, sunroom options. It's very keyword dense. And you think, well, that's what you're supposed to do, right? I'm going to tell you right now, no. This is not what you're supposed to do, because I'm going to tell you what happens. Yeah, for a while, Google might rank you because it says, well, this company is in these areas and has these services, and they might serve your page up as a nice high ranking But here's what happens when people come onto this website and they read this, let's be clear, garbage, their brains tune out and they say, what did I just read? And then they just start kind of clicking around to see if there's anything interesting or relevant. And here's what they find almost always. Nope. And here's what they do. They hit the back button. Like, think about in the old days when you wanted shoes, you go to the mall, right? You want to buy basketball shoes or running shoes or something like that. You go to the mall. Which shoe store did you go to first back in the day? Answer, whichever one happened to be closest to the door at the mall that you happen to go into. Like, right, there's like, maybe 10 different entrances at the mall. You go into the shoe store, you go to the shoe store that's closest to wherever you happen to go in based on where you parked. And you go into that store and you look around and you go, okay, they got shoes and, they're all up there on the wall and they've got different sections for running and basketball and walking and yoga, whatever it is. And you look at them and you go, okay, I kind of got a feel for what they have. And then you walk out of the store, you go through the mall and you go to the second store, whichever one's the next closest. And here's what you discover. They've got about the same shoes at about the same prices, the same brands, the same styles, the same colors. Everything's about the same. And so then you walk out and you go to the third store. And when you walk into the third store, here's what happens. You realize that, okay, they've got about the same shoes, about the same colors, about the same styles, about the same prices. Everything is about the same. And when you see that, here's the question for you. Which store do you end up buying from? And the answer is probably the third store, because you happen to be there when you finally realize that it's all the same junk everywhere at the same prices, pretty much everywhere. Or if you happen to maybe try something on at the first store because of the first store you're at, you might feel a little bit of obligation to the sales guy, so you might go back and buy there. But here's the real answer. It's just kind of a crapshoot. You just kind of happen to buy wherever you happen to buy because everything's about, again, the same. And here's what happens when you have this kind of marketing on your website. Remember, back to the beauty pageant. They all look nice. Do they put ugly people into the beauty pageant? The answer is no. There's kind of a minimum threshold for even being there in the first place. Now the question is, who's different, who's better? Which one should we choose? And I'm shifting back to talking about your website. And the answer, like the shoe store, is, I don't know. They all look about the same. This is no way to conduct a business, to sort of count on chance to deliver people to you that if they happen to walk into your store first, guess what? If they see this junk, they're going to go to the second and the third and the fourth. We've got to be better. We've got to do better. We've got to be more thoughtful. We've got to use more power, precision, and passion. And I see every day when we do these audits, again, I'm going to offer you the audit. Stick around. I'll ask you a poll question towards the end, and you can say, yes, I want the audit, and I'll audit your website. And you might be sitting there thinking right now, this guy's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, let's audit your website, and here's what we'll find. It's going to look about the same as your competitors. You say, well, no, we're different. Colors are better, design's better. We'll see. And that sounds a little negative and a little aggressive, but man, I'm kind of beat down because I've done this for so long and I've audited so many sites and I've helped so many companies with this that it's nearly universal, okay? So let's figure out what Google really wants. What does Google really want? Let's get inside Google's brain and let's try to crack the code. If it's not stuffed keywords, then what is it, okay? What is it that Google wants? Well, let's use sort of an analogy. If I were to ask you, hey, if somebody wanted to lose weight, what do you recommend? What are the principles that govern weight loss? And I ask this question all the time, and everybody always comes up with the exact same two answers, which is diet and exercise. Well, why diet and exercise? Well, because those are the two things that govern weight loss. You could probably slip in a couple of other things, sleep, drinking water. I don't know. It's probably part of diet. I'm not really sure. I'm not an expert on the topic, but here's what I know. There's two governing principles and everybody knows them and they're super obvious. So here's the real question. Then why do people still not lose weight? And here's another question. Why are there so many stupid products for sale out there that are trying to help you lose weight when the real thing is free? It's called diet and exercise. Put down the cheeseburger, go for a walk. That's how you do it. But there's all these things that are out there. And here's what I want you to realize about all those things that are for sale in the health weight loss industry, whether it's pills or exercise equipment or gym memberships or videos or whatever it is, all of them are considered what? Shortcuts. Look, I know you don't want to eat healthy, so I'll help you shortcut the process so that it's less miserable and it's easier to deal with. That's what those things are. I know you don't want to exercise, so let me make it easier for you to exercise. It's a hack. And so here's what we've got: an entire industry, billions and billions of dollars, trying to help people do something that if they would just have a little willpower and discipline, and I know there's other factors and psychological and, you know, we need to get in your brain and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to discount it, but for the main purpose of this conversation, it's really simple: diet and exercise. And here's why I'm telling you this. This is not a webinar about diet and exercise, but here's what it is a webinar about. How do you make Google rank your site high so that people find you? And the answer is, like diet and exercise for weight loss, there are two answers. There's two major principles, and everything else is nonsense. Everything else is noise. Everything else is a hack. And when you hear about this thing called the algorithm, right? No, Google's algorithm, it's so hard to crack, and we got to keep up with it. And the algorithm, you know, it's pushing us down and it's penalizing us. You know what the algorithm is primarily there for? It's to penalize companies that are utilizing hacks to appear more important, influential, and just interesting than they actually are, to go up the rankings. Google figures out what those are, and it pushes them back down the rankings where they belong because they're not actually interesting enough. So let's talk about what are the two principles. Okay, well, I just said this. Here's what Google really wants. Google wants people to find what they are searching for. They want them to find it. They want humans to find what they're searching for. And here's the two things. The diet and exercise of SEO is popularity and time on site. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute, okay? I want you to think about this for a minute. If somebody asked you in a town that you weren't familiar, what's the best restaurant? Well, here's one way you could find out. You could just go figure out which restaurant's always busy and it's hard to get into and you can't get a reservation. It always has people lined up out the door. Without knowing a single thing about the food, other than looking at the parking lot full and the people jammed into the door and not able to get a reservation, you could draw a conclusion that said, you know what, restaurant's probably pretty good. I don't know anything about it other than how busy it is. It must be good. All of these people can't possibly be wrong. Now, when it comes to SEO, if somebody searches Windows and they're in your area, here's the first thing Google's going to do. It's going to say, well, what website that we, Google, know is a window website has the most traffic? Because so many people are going to that site, it must be good, right? It's a really simple equation. It doesn't require an algorithm other than Google measuring the various websites and seeing which ones get the most traffic. And Google has a way to know if it's real traffic or bogus traffic or bullcrap traffic or actual traffic. But Google sorts through that and says, well, this site tends to get a lot of visitors. That means probably people like it. And when somebody searches, we'll send people there. This is why the biggest companies in your area tend to have the best SEO. They do a lot of things, but here's what they do best. They have a ton of traffic. They've been there forever. They spend a ton of money on advertising. They're really good at their game, and they have a lot of traffic. And Google says, must be good, right? So that's number one. And that's a little hard to control, especially if you're not a huge company, you don't have a large budget, and you're not sending people from advertising to your website, or you haven't been there and have tens of thousands of customers over the last 30 years. That's a little harder to pull off, but here's what you can pull off, right? You know, let's say that you were incapacitated somehow, trying to lose weight, and you couldn't actually exercise because your body just wouldn't let you. Well, you still have one thing available to you, right? Right, which is diet. And in this case, here's what you do have available to you. It's time on site. And I want you to think about this, and I want you to go down this kind of rabbit hole with me for just a minute. Here's what I want you to understand. The time on site is so critical because here's what Google's doing. It's looking at visitors going to a website, your website, for instance, and if people stay on a website for a long time, Google says, people are in there for a long time. They must like it. And then they'll start to push that site up the rankings. Now, here's how we do that. Two things. Identity, which we've already covered at a fair amount of length just a minute ago. But here's number two. It's what I call diggable content, interesting and relevant content. If I can get people on my site and then I can get them to stay not just on the page, not just read that page for a little while, as long as Google expects people to stay on that page, but also get them to click around and stay on my site, then Google's going to look at my site and say, people are staying on this website. It must be interesting. It must have relevant information. It must be something that people wanted when they found it in the search. And Google will start to push those sites up the rankings. Now, here's what happens. It starts to compound itself, right? If you're getting pushed up the rankings because your site is interesting and relevant and people are staying on it for a long time, then you're going to start getting more visitors because Google's going to put you higher in the rankings, which means you're going to become a more and more popular site. And here's the best of both worlds, a really, really popular site that has lots of visitors that people also stay on for a long time, right? Makes sense? All right, well, here's the question. What's interesting and relevant? Well, here's some things. This goes back to identity. We want to talk about things that are interesting and relevant in terms of your workmanship, whether that's your products, exposing how you don't cut corners, doing things right the first time, attention to detail. You can read this list on here. It's, how you deal with subcontractors, the training standards that you have, warranties that you offer. These are all things that we can talk about. And I'm going to show you how to talk about them here in just a second. But this is one major category of stuff. It's called workmanship. It has to do with your products and how you do it. This is what most people think of when they think of their identity. But there's other categories, like I mentioned earlier: core values, integrity, respect, compassion. And here's what we do with our customers. We look at their companies and then we map their core values to this list. And then we create blog articles that are relevant to this. So let me give you an idea. Let's say that you have a core value of integrity, okay? It's right there on the screen, integrity. So here's the question that I would ask you. Tell me about a time when your company displayed integrity. Then you might tell me about a time when you messed something up and then you bent over backwards to make it right for the customer. Does that make sense? And then we would remember power, precision, and passion. So we would tell that story with a high degree of detail and precision. So we might tell the story about the time when you installed the window and the customer called you back and they said, hey, these windows are leaking. You sent a guy over, you looked, you realized that somebody had installed it wrong, they used the wrong caulk, whatever it was, and at expense to yourself, with a smile on your face, you pulled the windows out, you redid the opening, you reinstalled them again. It cost you $1,600 to do that, but you did it because it was the right thing to do, because dadgummit, you know what? You actually messed up. See, people don't care if you mess up. They only care if you make it right? And then this is a way that we show we've got integrity, and people see that. I'm going to show you how they'll find it on your website here in just a second, but stick with me on this. Core values is one of the categories. Another one is your bedside manner, being punctual, your communication, accurate quotes, no sales pressure, no pricing games, cleaning up after yourself, worker appearance, hiring standards, being courteous, kind, listening. These are the kinds of things that we can also drill down on, write articles about. And here's the key. When I say diggable content, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get people to come onto your website, see something that's interesting and relevant, click on it, read it, and then while they're reading it, embed other interesting pieces of information and articles on there so that they continue to click around, so that by the time they're finished, they've clicked 2, 3, 8, 10, 16 different things on your website. All the while, your people's time on site goes up, and Google says, wow, people really like this. Make sense? Here's another category, what I call other elements. Maybe it's your community outreach. Maybe it's your company culture, your reputation, financial stability, your origin story, online reviews, your financing, accolades, and awards. Here's what I want to do. I want to focus in on just this one right here. Now, look on your screen right now. There's something like 40 different points. Let's just look at one of these 40, just one. We could do what I'm about to show you for any and all and multiple times per any of these 40 things. But let's just look at accolades and awards. And let's say that somebody was on the web, on the internet, and they Google search St. Louis Better Business Bureau because they've kind of heard the reputation that these contractors have. So they want to kind of look and check and, just see what's on here. And let's say when they Google search St. Louis, they're in St. Louis, right? And they search roofing and Better Business Bureau, they see this. The weird story of how we won the St. Louis BBB Torch Award. Now, I want you to compare that headline that's in a Google search to everything else that's on this page. Now, look, some of these are actually higher on their search results. John Deal Roofing received BBB Torch Award. Well, what is that? People might not really understand. Oh, what is that? Olena Construction and Roofing Reviews. That's Glassdoor. People know that's not what they're looking for. Enterprise Contracting Home Reviews, Perfect Exteriors. And then we have this very intriguing, very interesting, very attention-grabbing headline, The Weird Story of How We Won the St. Louis BBB Torch Award. Now, this is a really good match to what they were searching. It's St. Louis, it's BBB, and it has this intriguing headline. Now, here, let me show you what happens when somebody clicks on this. They go to this page on, guess what? Our client website called Exterior Pro. And here's what the headline says. The weird story of how we won the St. Louis BBB Torch Award for ethics. One ultra picky customer, 6 years of procrastinating, and a bit of carpal tunnel is all it took. And people read that and they're like, what? Huh? And then this story, I'm going to just tell you, you hear me now, believe me later, go look it up. This story is very well written. It has a tremendous amount of power, precision, and passion. It's written by expert copywriters who understand, number one, marketing, number two, remodeling. Imagine that. And it's written so that people are going to be sucked in and they're going to read this. Now, here's what's interesting about this. That all by itself is impressive and awesome enough, and it's something that's going to really help your Google rankings. But watch this. Look what's over here on the right. Banned. We blacklisted every replacement window in the St. Louis metro area, but this one. What about this article? Boom. Why we stopped selling vinyl siding. This one. I installed non-Provia doors in my home, and now I feel like an idiot. What? And people see this while they're reading the article that they found through search, picture proof that some St. Louis County contractors shouldn't touch James Hardie siding, and they go, I wonder what that is. Then, guess what happens? If you go to the bottom, this is the bottom. I'm going to go back up. This is the Torch Award story, the weird story. If you scroll to the bottom of that, look what else you find down here. Related posts. Look at the headlines. I installed non-Provia doors in my home, and now I feel like an idiot. How most only St. Louis County roofers get attic ventilation completely wrong. Here's why you're right to be suspicious of our efficiency discount. And then, through this concept that we call diggable content, people now start digging through this website, and they click on, well, they get over to the blog, and you can see we've got all these, but now they click on this one. Why choose triple pane windows in St. Louis and in St. Charles County? And they see over here, guess what? We feed them more diggable content. It's interesting, it's relevant, it's well written by people that understand, number one, marketing, number two, remodeling. It's so key. Let me tell you what most SEO companies do. They write generic articles on generic topics by people that don't know jack squat or a hill of beans about anything that you do. They're just writers that are hired. Everything that should be on your website should be specifically tailored to you, to your identity, and it should be written by people that understand both marketing, how to write an article, and also not just your company, but remodeling in general. And so here's how this works. Your identity is kind of like the mama and daddy, the mama bear and the papa bear. And then all of the diggable articles that are written over the course of time and put in strategic places on your website so that people see them and run into them and click them are kind of the children. And it expands out and gives much greater depth, richness, and width to your identity, okay? So here's the content, diggable content outcome. People spend more time on your site, going through more pages. Google's going to notice this. Like I said, push you up the rankings. Visitors become raving fans as they learn about how awesome you are because we're telling them, and you convert more lookers into buyers, and you have more organic leads, and you convert them at a higher percentage. Now, I gave you a little heads up at the beginning of this webinar that the first couple of points, mistake 1 and 2, we're going to take a little longer to go through, and then we'll go fairly quickly through points number 3, 4, and 5. So that's where we're going to head next. Mistake number 3, focusing on leads, not brand. Here's what you think. Just give me a ton of leads and I'll be fine. Here's the truth. Not all leads are created equal. And here's what I want you to look at this point. It's easier to sell, way easier to sell to friends than to strangers. In these last 3 points that I'm going to go through, the last 3 marketing mistakes are going to have this common theme of it's easier to sell to friends than it is to strangers. And I'm going to show you how to get more and more friends so that it's easier to sell than strangers. You need to shift from what I call hunting to farming. That's what we're going to talk about right now. It's time to build your brand, okay? Now, let's look at this. All leads are not created equal. Here's a hierarchy of the best kinds of leads. The best kind of lead is a repeat customer. They come back, they already like you, they know your prices, they've been through the sales process, they are easy to sell to. Everybody knows that. Number 2, referrals. These are people that trust one of your customers and your customer liked you enough to send them over. Everybody loves referrals. But let's go on to some other kinds of leads. And again, this is in order. Home show leads, branded. Now you say, well, what do you mean branded? Branded means that somebody came to the home show, and because they've had exposure to your company and your identity, probably through advertising, they come to the home show and they specifically seek you out and they want to talk to you. That's a great lead. Media leads that are branded, again, people that come from Facebook or TV or radio that know who you are, that had exposure to you over a consistently long period of time, who know who you are, how you're different, why you're better, what they can expect when they do business with you, identity, and they seek you out and they call you because they know that they want to do business with you, okay? These are the best kinds of leads. Below that, we've got organic search. And you say, well, no, wait a second. Organic search is an awesome lead. I love organic search. Yeah, but here's the problem with organic search. The person that was searching didn't know who you were, so they had no preconceived notion. Now, if you've got a great website, it's got great identity, it's got great diggable content like we just talked about, guess what? Organic search leads can be fantastic. And obviously, they're relatively inexpensive depending on how much you pay, somebody to do your SEO for you. But yeah, they're good. I'm not saying they're terrible. I'm just saying they're not as good as these other leads that already know you, that already want to do business with you. Those are the best. Below that, home show leads that are unbranded. These are people that happen to stumble into you at the home show. And they're good, though, because you can actually talk to them at the home show. That's a real positive, right? Advertising, unbranded. These are people that just sort of saw your ad in the Valpak and went, well, guess I'll call them. That's okay, but it's not as good as these other ones above it. Pay-per-click. Again, pay-per-click leads are good, but the people don't know who to call. So they go and ask Google, and Google says, I don't know, here's some people. Why don't you look at, go into this mall and look at these shoe stores. And then below that is aggregated leads. Now, let's be super, super clear about something. I'm not saying that any of these leads are bad. And I've got lots of clients that do tons of pay-per-click and tons of aggregated leads. So I'm not saying don't do those. I'm saying, objectively speaking, this list shows the order of which leads are the easiest to sell to and therefore the best ones that you'd like to get more of. So here's what I want to do. I want to help you learn how to get more of these home show branded, media leads branded, organic search. That's what we're really gunning for. And of course, repeat referrals, that's a little more up to you. Selling to friends is easier, more profitable than selling to strangers. Now, let's just go through this kind of quickly. Does brand matter? The answer is 100% yes. I'm going to reference a study. This was done in Germany. Here's what they did. They took people and they gave them 4 unmarked cups of cola to drink. And they said, these are 4 different colas. And they told them, they didn't tell them which was which, but they said, I want you to taste test these and I want you to rate these on how well you like them. And they said that one of them was Coke. They said that one of them was Pepsi. One of them was a store generic brand. And one of them was a new brand that was being tested for the market. And so they said, here's Coke, drink it. What do you think? Oh, it's great. This one's Pepsi, drink it. What do you think? Give me a rating. This one's store brand cola. Drink it. Tell me what you think. This one is a test brand. Drink it. Tell me what you think. Now, here's the funny part about this test. Every time they drank a cola, no matter what they were told, it was actually the same cola. There weren't actually 4 different colas. There was actually only one. And they just told them it was Coke. And they told them it was Pepsi. They told them it was store brand. And they told them it was a test brand. But here's what they found. Very interesting and relevant to our conversation. They found that when people thought, again, please do not miss this point. Every single time it was the same cola. It was never different. Every time they thought they were drinking either Coke or Pepsi, the part of their brain that lit up because they had these people hooked up to these wires that were showing brain activity, when they drank what they thought was Coke or Pepsi, the reward center in their brain lit up like a Christmas tree. When they drank what they thought, again, remember, it was always the same, but when they thought that it was either a store brand or a test, the value judgments part of their brain lit up, not the reward center. So in other words, if I'm drinking a cola that I think is a brand, I'm getting a reward. If I'm drinking something that I think is either a store brand or a test cola, then I'm making a value judgment. I'm trying to decide if I like it or not. Remember, every single time, same cola. Does this study have anything to do with your company? Yeah, you better believe it. Most contractors do not engage in branding. Here's why. It's a small, fragmented industry with lots of small players. If you're doing $2 million and you're in Dallas, Texas, it's really hard to brand. Everyone's addicted to fast, cheap leads. And we see this all the time. Here's the number one question I get all the time. We do home shows and we do aggregated leads, but we need to grow to the next level and we don't know how to do it. How do we do that, Rich? And the answer is everything I'm about to talk about right now. It's a sales-driven industry. We'll talk about that on mistake 4 in just a second. People think that it's too expensive to brand, and they think that branding is just, about your colors and your look and your branded trucks and those kinds of things. That's part of it. That is part of it, but it's not what I'm talking about. The result is they don't have any brand. So when people see you, they start making value judgments. It's not the reward center, it's the value judgment part of their brain. They're saying to themselves, do I trust these people? Who are they? How are they different? Why are they better? They're making value judgments. What we want to do is start to build a brand based on an identity so that over time, people will think about our company in the reward center and their brain will go off. Okay? This is easier to do than you think it is. You don't have to dominate the entire world like Coke and Pepsi does. I mean, everybody knows Coke and Pepsi because they've been around over 100 years and they spend literally billions of dollars everywhere on the planet to brand themselves. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is dominate your geography, your town, wherever you're at. That's it. That's all you have to do. You can be a 10, 20, $30 million company right there in your town. To accomplish this, 2 major steps. Number 1, guess what? It's always the solution to everything, identity. Number 2, reaching a ton of people at a reasonable cost. And this is what most people, most companies, they fail to do. They go out and they buy leads from aggregators. They buy leads from pay-per-click, which is buying them from Google, or they go to a home show and try to run into people that happen to be looking for what they're selling, but they don't put any effort into going out to the marketplace at large and finding people that they can help understand over the course of time who they are, how they're different, why they're better, and what they can expect when they do business with them. It's called hunting versus farming. And look at this illustration that's on the screen. This guy is planting change into the ground. This is obviously a metaphor, and he's growing cash. You've got to take a little bit of capital, and then it grows into something bigger. So we're going to talk about that as we go through these last 2 things. But I'm going to kind of rapid fire through mistakes 3, 4, and 5, but they're going to all sort of accumulate and aggregate into one major point here in just a minute. So here's what you think when it comes to sales heavy approach. Just get my salesman in there in the house. I'm going to be fine. Here's the truth. You're probably losing opportunities to sell if you're not doing the other things that I'm talking about. Guess what? It's easier to sell to friends than strangers. Your salesperson needs to be one part of a bigger system. Here's a good quote for you. Victory goes to the one with superior forces at the point of contact. I think this is either Lao Tzu or Sun Tzu or somebody, Art of War. I'm not really sure. Victory goes to the one with superior forces at the point of contact. Think about it. What are your points of contact in your selling system? Well, here's what they should be. First of all, your advertising messages. I'm not talking about your Valpak. That's okay. That's good. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying advertising that is in your geography, not the entire planet, but in your geography, that is helping people understand who you are, how you're different, why you're better, and what they can expect when they do business with you. Number 2 is your website. We've talked about that at length already. Number 3, the receptionist, whoever intakes your leads, they play a tremendously important part of emphasizing and reinforcing the identity that they're seeing on your website in your advertising. If they don't handle that lead properly, you're losing opportunities. Also, the confirmation call, same thing. When you call to confirm the appointment, you need to be reinforcing one more time the identity points that have been brought up in your advertising and in your website. I don't mean rehearse the entire case. I mean take the bullet points of the most important ones and make sure they understand them. And then look what number 5 is, the salesman. The salesman. But here's what I see over and over and over again. Companies in this industry spend tremendous amount of time, energy, and effort and money recruiting, training salespeople. And I agree with that. It's important. You should do that. But if you don't put the same amount of effort, you think about your website. We see this all the time. Guy says, oh, well, we spent $15,000 on that website. We're not going to, go back and fix it and put this identity and this diggable content in there because we already spent $15,000 and we don't want to do it again because we've already done it. And you look at that same rationale and you say, well, what if you had a sales guy that you were sending out there and you're giving him, 30 leads a month, or let's say 10 a week, and he was closing 1 out of 10, and the second week 1 out of 10, and the third week 1 out of 10, and the 8th week 1 out of 10, and the 10th week 1 out of 10. you'd fire his butt because he's costing you money. Every time he doesn't close 30% and he only closes 10%, you just wasted money on leads. You just wasted money on everything. He's costing you money. It's obvious. Everybody knows it. And you fire his butt regardless of how much time, effort, energy, and money you put into hiring him and training him. You don't care because he's costing you. Yet we look at a website and go, well, we spent $15,000 on that thing. We're not going to redo it. Yet it's also costing you money because it's underperforming, because it doesn't have identity, diggable content, evidence, building a case, all the things that we've talked about. Meanwhile, let's look at your advertising. Here's what your advertising says. We have windows. Here's the main message that I see in most advertising. We have windows. And then I might see something like this. And if you buy one, we'll give you one free. Or if you buy four, we'll give you one free. Or we'll give you some kind of an offer. And you're actually, by having those kinds of offers, you're actually encouraging people to price shop you. You understand? It's all backwards. It's all messed up. It's not that hard to understand. I've laid it out for you in this webinar. For some of you, a light bulb's going off. For others of you, confusion is, surrounding your head. But it's truth, and it's real, and it's not that hard. You just have to look at it different than you have in the past. Let's look at mistake number 5 as we wrap this up. I told you the last 3 would go quicker. Mistake number 5 is staying in your comfort zone. You think, well, I've got 3 reliable lead sources. We do some canvassing. We, buy leads from Home Advisor, and we go to the home shows. I'm fine. Here's the truth. If that's true, and this concept right here, that your business may not be scalable, is based on dozens and probably hundreds of conversations that I've had with companies that have maxed out those sources and they don't know how to grow. There's other ways to generate more leads. It's way easier to sell to friends than to strangers. And I want to look at this one more time. This has come up on the last 3 mistakes, and it's all important, and it's really, really critical that you understand this. So it's what we're going to talk about. Your bread and butter, okay, that's kind of a corny graphic, but your bread and butter, it's gotten you to a certain point. We've got to push you out of your comfort zone into other things if you want to scale your business and grow. If you really want to become a $10 million company, that's our goal. Remember my stated goal earlier in this webinar for our clients. Our mission statement is to help companies grow to $10 million and beyond by unlocking unlimited lead flow. If you want to do that, you will have to get out of your comfort zone. There's no choice. You can't just stay in your comfort zone. It's the kiss of death, or it's the kiss of mediocrity, or if you're already making, $700,000 on whatever, $5 million in sales, and that's what you want, more power to you. But there's more available if you want to reach out and grab. So let's talk about media and social media advertising and, taking it to the next level. We'll go through this fairly quickly. Here's the first question that everybody wants to know. I can't afford it. How can I afford that? Well, here's the first thing. Raise your prices. Every company that I work with that is, quote, a level 10 company, Horizon, Service Champions, Jericho, Hanson's, they all have premium prices in the marketplace, all of them, every last one. Here's why. So that they can afford to do everything that we're talking about here. If you've got a strong identity, it's easier to raise your prices because people will understand why they're going to pay more. You've got to get good enough at hunting that you can put some capital aside. Hunting is all of the things we've talked about. It's your home show. It's your aggregated leads. It's your pay-per-click leads. It's your canvassing leads. These are all hunting activities. I'm not saying don't do them. I'm not saying they're not worthwhile. I'm saying you need to get good at them. I mean, when your company's small, you have to be good at them, because if you don't kill something to eat, to use the analogy, you starve. But you've got to get good enough at those things that you can start to put some capital aside, which will be easier to do if, number one, you raise your prices, right? So that you can now start to invest this money into farming. Start immediately spending 5 to 20% of your marketing budget on farming activities. Well, like what? Well, radio, TV, Facebook, to name 3 specific ones. You're going to want to increase your farming budget over time until it's 50 to 70% of your total budget. With my clients, the farming budget, it's usually in the 80 to 90% range. I'm talking about level 10 companies that have embraced this, that are kicking butt, that are killing their competitors, that are dominating their markets. They're spending the majority of their dollars on farming. They're spending it on television, radio, Facebook. That's where the most of their money goes. Okay? Here's how you do it. First of all, reach people where attention is and where it's efficient. Again, that's going to be TV, radio, and Facebook. And look, I've heard you. I heard you. I got it. You're going to say this to me. Well, we've done that and it didn't work. Let me be very clear with you. If you take a farming activity like radio and TV and you use it for hunting, which is to try to generate leads, and you go hire a guy like Ron Sherman who's going to put these cheese butt commercials on the news that are going to say, hey, we got a sale today. We're going to give this sale. We got this really great sale. We've only got 10 available. If you call us right now, you got to call us right now. Then they come back in the middle of the newscast and say, oh, well, we only had 10 and we've already had 7 people call. Look, it was Doris and Frank and Ted. They all called us. Yeah, but hurry up and call because we've only got 3 left. If you do that crap, that's hunting, okay? First of all, it's cheesy. But number 2, it's hunting. Television, radio, Facebook are primarily made for farming, for cultivating, planting seeds, cultivating, nurturing, and then here's a good word for you, harvesting. Here's what you cannot do. You cannot harvest crops that you planted yesterday. You can't. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes capital. You've got to do it the right way. Now, you go hunt to feed yourself tonight until your crops come in, but you've got to start on this as soon as possible. Your messaging has to be on point. That's identity. Your buys have to be efficient and effective. Folks, let me tell you, if you're on radio and TV, you're going to also want to ask me to do a media audit because if you bought your radio and TV, I guarantee you, you're getting a bad deal. You're getting screwed over by the media reps because they understand the language. You don't. It's a longer discussion than we have time for, but trust me, this is something that you're going to want to look at very, very carefully. The website has to support your message again, identity, and you have to be ready to handle the volume. This is how you do it. Reach people where their attention is. Here's what you should expect. It's farming. A lot of people who see your ads or hear your ads, they're not even prospects. The majority of those who are prospects are not ready to buy right now. Just because your window commercial is on the television doesn't mean that everybody suddenly needs windows right now. They're going to need windows when they need windows. Your job is to be there supporting them, helping them understand who you are, how you're different, why you're better, so that when they're ready to buy, they automatically choose you. That means you should mostly be thinking in terms of future buyers, not immediate sales. Here's the good news. You can reach people for way cheaper than you can in other media. Direct mail, for instance, is going to be about $300 CPM, cost per thousand. TV and radio, we can reach people for about 3 to 10. Facebook, about 10 to 20. But it's a lot more targeted. $3 to $10 per thousand versus $300 per thousand. Look, I didn't tell you just now to not do direct mail. I've got plenty of clients that spend plenty of money on direct mail and they do it and it works and there's good reasons for that. But here's what else is good. TV and radio at $3 to $10 per thousand. Are you kidding me? It's a fantastic deal. Facebook. Let's look at Facebook as we wrap this up. Advantages of Facebook. It's laser focused, both geography wise and demographically. You can start with smaller budgets and grow, okay? The CPMs are low, like I just talked about. There's something called custom audiences where we can retarget people. That gives us even more targeting precision. And you can also just switch up ads. It's easy. I mean, creating TV commercials, that's hard. It takes time and money. There's no long-term commitments. You can start and stop whenever you want. You can push pause right now, and you can stop spending money right now. So, you need to treat Facebook, though, like farming, not hunting. Most people are trying to, quote, generate leads. That's why they're over here buying from the aggregators. I need leads right now. I've got salesmen right now. They need leads. They've got to run leads. We need leads. We've got to get leads right now. The problem with that theory is the leads that you're getting are low quality. They're strangers. They're people that don't know you. They've never heard of you. Your identity is foreign to them. And so it's harder to close. It's possible, but it's harder. Here's what's better. 4 years from now, a guy that's seen you on TV and heard you on the radio for the last 4 years understands who you are, how you're different, why you're better, and now he needs windows and he calls you and he doesn't even go to Google because he already knows to call you. Or if he does go to Google, it's just to get your phone number to set the appointment. That's what we want. It's like a pump, right? Ever pump one of these old-time pumps? You start pumping and you pump and you pump and you lean on it. It's heavy and it's hard and it takes effort and you try it and you do it. Man, it's hard. But then when the water starts flowing, you can just use one finger up and down and the water just keeps coming. But if you stop pumping, guess what? Water goes back down and then you're starting over from zero. You've got to have this, consistency and frequency. That's the key to making this work. Consistency and frequency, okay? So here's the outcome of doing it. People will call you even when your ads aren't running. Imagine that. The reward center in their brain will be activated like we talked about with the Coke and Pepsi example. Competition shrinks to just a few key players. So now instead of competing against everybody, you're only competing against the other guys that are doing it well like you are. Organic search rankings go up, closing ratios go up, sales and profits go up. Your company, this is important, your company becomes sellable, because if you have a brand, you can sell that puppy. You don't have a brand and you're just a guy over there selling on home show and repeat and referral, you're going to get, if you do sell it, you're going to get way, way, way less money. Your multipliers are going to be somewhere in the 3 to 4 times earnings instead of the 8 to 10 to 11 or 12 times earnings that a great brand is going to get. It's worth it to invest. Trust me on this. I've watched companies over the last 2.5, 3 years sell out to private equity like it's going out of style, and the money is insane. It's stupid money, okay? If you want to look at some examples of what these TV and radio ads look like, go to our website, Level 10 Contractor, go to the services page and dig down, you'll find these samples, okay? Just a couple of wrap up, and if you'll hold on for just a second, I'm going to do a poll. Morgan, if you'll be on standby, not quite yet, but she's going to launch a poll that's going to say, would you like to get a website audit? If you'll hit either yes or no. If you do, here's what will happen. We'll contact you, get a little bit of key information from you later today. If you could make yourself available to give us that key information that we're going to need in terms of your website and a couple other things, then we're going to do an audit on your website, and we're going to do it on 2 things, findability and conversionability. We're going to see how good your SEO is and how good your site is itself at converting lookers into buyers. And it's going to be graded on a scale of 1 to 100. And you'll see broken down into multiple categories exactly where you need to improve. And this takes us time and effort to do it. It's not just we push a button and it's some automated thing. We've got actual humans that know this stuff, that are actually looking at your site and making these grades based on, our experience and some tools that we use. And it takes us a couple of hours each to do them. So we'll set up a meeting to deal with, to go through it and show you and discuss it with you. But this is a fantastic opportunity to see exactly where you stand in terms of your identity, your diggable content, your conversionability, your SEO, how all of that works. I'm assuming you've read this testimonial that's on the screen. I'm not going to read it. Here's another one from Long Roofing. They did $60 million. This guy, Dave Normandin, he read the book and he says, man, I've read all the other books. This is the only one that I've seen that's specific to this industry that truly hit home. We're going to use these principles to get to 100 mil. Okay. I do want to encourage you to look up the Level 10 Contractor Daily Podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Listen, this is a daily podcast, 365 days a year. If you like what you've heard today on this webinar, guess what? You're going to hear more just like it every day, 365. So look it up, subscribe, and you'll be all set. You can listen to my voice every single day. That might be a punishment, but it also might be good. All right. Website audit or media audit. You can either contact me like is on the screen, and if you do that, if you email me, just say, hey, I'd like the website audit, and we'll be in contact with you later today. But Morgan, if you'll go ahead and run the poll real quick. And this will go on your screen. Okay. Would you like to receive a free website audit from Level 10 Contractor? Just a simple yes or no. If you'll just leave that on there for a minute, Morgan, give people a chance to fill that out. Also, if you want a media audit where we'll look at your TV and radio buy, look, if you're not buying radio and TV, there's nothing to audit. We don't need to look at it. But if you're actively engaged in radio and TV advertising, or even Facebook advertising, we'd be happy to take a look and render an opinion on if you've got an efficient buy or not. Spoiler alert, you probably don't, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, that's probably good, Morgan, I'm guessing. Also, another resource, if you go to Amazon, you can look up the book, Unlocking Unlimited Lead Flow. But you don't even have to do that. If you just go and listen to the podcast on a daily basis, that's going to give you a ton of great information. That's all I have for you today. I don't think we have time for Q&A. I'm open to Q&A if anybody has some Q&A, but I think that's it for now. I appreciate your time. Morgan, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody on the call that if you missed anything or joined late, a recording is going to be sent out to everyone. I just want to say thanks again to Rich for doing this for us today. And once again, on behalf of Great Lakes, Simonton, and Plygym Windows, thank you to everyone who joined today's webinar. We really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.